My friend paid me $100 to watch Talk to Me. Here's my review. Fellas, I don't tend to talk about it too often, but I absolutely adore psychological horror. You know, you always have your Screams, your Friday the 13th, and your Halloweens, but me, I prefer Smile, Paranormal Activity. The first few, not whatever the hell they have going on in these latest ones. And though I've never watched The Conjuring, I might like it. But I will say, one of the things that I absolutely adore the most in a horror scenario is when the entity is not something that can be stopped, where its presence and activation deems absolute control and dominance over the entire film. The type of story where you're not wondering if your enemy is a mile away, but actually in your mind. That's why I really enjoy movies like It Follows and or the first half of Weapons. And honest to God, I always thought that possession was more of a cheap avenue to this. But what Talk to Me does is it takes that possession element that I find so cheap and it reworks it to be more interesting by putting you inside the mind of the possessed and showing you what they see. Firstly, I want to point out that I am not a name guy, okay? I will not remember any of the characters' names and I will make up nicknames just to supplement that. Spoiler warning in advance, okay? Okay. So Talk to Me follows this teenage group that has these hands. And the condition that they're in, they're statue-like, with writing all over. Now what you do is you light a candle and grab the hand and then you say, "Talk to me." And once you look in front of you, there's going to be somebody who is no longer in this world in front of you in the condition at which they died. And this was one of the more interesting parts of the movie, might I say. The visuals were actually quite captivating. I thought this was going to be more of a cheap experience, you know, a few cuts here, a few bruises there, yada yada, right? But they actually got pretty damn grotesque. So when the main character, we're just gonna call her Yellow Hood, goes to do this thing, basically it gets them high. That's why they keep doing this. It's like a little bit of a high that they get from this entire paranormal experience. And when she goes to do it, she just keeps going, right? And going and going and going until at one point during a party, essentially one of her friends gets possessed by her dead mother. Now, one of the core parts of this is that the friend didn't want to do this. They were peer pressured into this game. And when you say, "I let you in," and these people possess your body, they do crazy things that I even refuse to show in this video. But upon her friend connecting with her dead mother, instead of ending the game, she prolongs it. And because she prolongs it, the possession gets worse, causing the boy to go around the house and basically start damaging themselves, slamming their head in on different objects, all in an attempt to cause as much self-harm as humanly possible. Now, in order to stop the game, there's two things required. You need to let go of the hand and blow out the candle. Now, they let go of the hand, but the candle during those sessions were never blown out. The movie follows the main character as she has dreams and visions of her mother, all while her friend is in the hospital and his condition is getting worse and worse. Now, real quick, I want to talk about my pros and cons, because at the end of the day, no movie is perfect. I feel like the concept is good, but the premise and the way that it was displayed was a little bit weak. Horror movies tend to have this thing where characters will do dumb things or act dumb because, oh, that character is this, that means they're stupid, or that character is that means they're stupid, which I find as a very cheap avenue. With how this game works at its fundamentals, it makes no real sense as to why somebody would do this and then do it again. And I know what you're about to say, Cameraman, you just said it yourself, they get high off of it, so why not do it again? And while it would be a good reason, you know, for anything else, literally the moment that you start doing it, you see some traumatizing shit. I guess it's running on the deep end of teenage ego and angst, but I feel like we could have went a little bit deeper than that. Because when you have teenagers in literature making mistakes, you kind of already know what they're gonna do. And we definitely could have gotten more interesting with, I guess, how the characters were displayed in that aspect. I find it more captivating if a character is outplayed by an entity rather than, you know, just called in and caught by their addiction. I feel like that part of the narrative falls a little bit flat. Now, there's another bit, right? Spoilers again. They tried to introduce a aspect of the story that was essentially insinuating that the mother didn't kill herself, which, you know, it's said by the father that she did, and it's heavily implied, but then she just says, "No, I didn't," and, well, I'm not really... That didn't really go too many places. Really, it brought a little bit of a stage of mystery to the film, really near the middle of the plot. But the problem with that is it kind of just faded off once we kind of just got back into helping the still possessed boy who's currently in the hospital, you know, trying to recover while, you know, still possessed, so he's still hurting himself in different ways. Basically, it was rolling off the implications that it was the father that was the one that killed the mother, but we didn't really get too much out of that because in the moment where we were kind of like at that plot's peak, you know what I'm saying? Like at that moment where we were like at the climax of that little subplot, the father, you know, spoiler, dies. Which I'm gonna be honest with you, would rather that have not been the case because that plot was actually pretty damn interesting. But also at the same time, I have no idea if the entity that we were actually talking to the entire movie was her mother or just one other evil spirit that was replicating her mother, because that was also kind of something that would be implied like throughout the movie too, that there's just like some sort of, I guess, like more evil sort of thing going on behind the scenes. So like the mother naturally will do evil things because she's in some sort of purgatory or something. I don't know, it's kind of weird. I just generally never really like it when a character is stupid in a horror movie, right? And I just like dislike it so much because I love it when a character is smart, but the entity that they're going against is smarter. It makes the movie so much more layered. Feel free to leave a comment if you agree with me on that. I actually do want to see how many more people actually agree with me. But one thing that I really do like about the movie is the way that it ended. Now, I'm not gonna lie to you, the concept of the movie is really good, but in practice throughout the movie, the entire like plot line of the possession and the primary thing that we're supposed to be scared of in the movie is it's kind of like out there, you know what I'm saying? Like there's so many pieces that aren't necessarily put together that it makes it hard to really conceptualize what we're really going against here. And the problem with that is that it doesn't really play too well into the idea of what we're really going with here, you know, the psychological horror aspect of it. Let's say we're dealing with somebody who's physically there. Okay, if I don't know anything about that, I still know that they're physically there. And because I don't know who they are or what they're doing, but I do know that one of their intents are to kill me or to drive me to a point of insanity, I know that they are still an active threat. With psychological horror, it tends to be a little bit more delicate because what you're dealing with is your own mind and or whatever entity is abusing it in order to make you do what you do. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say that this movie doesn't have its moments, right, where it's absolutely captivating in its own way, but there's something about it that just slightly misses the mark. And I really hope that they scrape this up, you know, in the next movie and they really do something with it, because it's not like they were too far. But I think because it was their first run with this concept, right, they kind of just like flip-flopped here and there, and what they got out of the movie, it was still very solid, right, but there's plenty more that we could do with this. Like the first movie feels like it's more like trying to make you capture the concept rather than drag you into the world where this thing is happening. And because we have no real primary thing that we're dealing with and the only rules that we have to apply to the situation is the game, you have to deal with the horror aspect of it even more delicately than you would in, say, a scenario like Smile, where the entity is more established and there's rules, but there's also aspects that we don't know, and that's the suspenseful part. But the stuff that we don't know is still at a more acute angle of vision where we do know that this entity is hunting us down. It's in our mind, it's manipulating us, and the way that it's doing it is insane. Setting the comparisons aside though, because I really don't want this to be one big comparison, it's kind of one of the other primary things that I have to do with this movie that it's just kind of a little bit wrong to me, where it slightly misses the mark, you know what I'm saying? It's the visuals compared to the story that we're telling. I need the story to like beat in a little bit more, you know what I'm saying? Like we got the mother, bet. We got the possessed kid, bet. We got the game where entities possess you, bet. But through majority of the movie, we're stuck with occasional flickers. Yup, there's my dead mom right there. Yup, there's a few other dead people right there, and that's about it. Like, yeah, sure, they can take your life, but like, you know, whatever. Like, they could kill you, but there's no active desire to. Also, you did this to yourself. I think that's also one of the other things that makes this less scary. Just the fact that the only real reason why any of this is happening is just because of peer pressure. But I will say, I do like the end of the movie, because, you know, she dies at the end. The main character actually dies, and that's a very bold choice. And I won't get into the nitty-gritty of the way that she dies. Granted, it was still through, you know, the method of possession of what, you know, everything that was going on in the movie beforehand. She gets set in this purgatory, and then one of the final scenes of the movie is she becomes the entity that's on the other side when they say, talk to me. I say entity, but it's really just person, but because the person's dead, I'm just gonna say entity. But I digress. It's still one of the most interesting ways that I've ever seen a horror movie end itself. And while I do think that the plot suffers from diving too far into other aspects of itself that doesn't really encapsulate the horror aspect of it, that doesn't detract from the fact that I do think that this movie is a pretty decently damn good experience. Talk to Me gets a good old 6 or 7 bingos out of like 10 schmingos or some shit. I don't fucking